I have done the election. I have done the CU election. How can be the CMO? But I never know that the government of Orissa spared my name to run the election only with the condition I cannot be retained by the election commission forever. I have to be given back to the system. And I didn't know. And then I am getting a call from the election commission telling me that we have taken, you see your order until further orders. It is not 3 years or 4 years, 10 years. Everybody said you will do a good election. You have done it, you have proved it. Now you are called to go to CMO. We have no objection, you can go. But I told, you may not have an objection, but I do have an objection. The reason being, a man who did a CEO's election and become a secretary to CM, and the common man will think about it. What he will think about the election machinery, that perception I was worried. I refused. Do you know that where I was selected to go? I was selected by the government of India, Election Commission of India, to be the next Deputy Election Commissioner of India on my promotion. I went to Delhi, 30 state elections, 2 Lok Sabha elections. Forget about Kashmir election now. Again I am going to the Election Commission for the second time. Second time was the Deputy CEO relaxing all the rules. Because by the time I want to tell you, in 2009 I was diagnosed with the cancer. I am recovering from the cancer, took a lighter assignment. They were telling that the Chief Vigilance Officer in an innocuous post, I came to a petroleum company working there. And then came the Chhattisgarh violence where the V.N. Shukla and other people were killed, some 32 leaders were killed. And then the Election Commission wanted somebody to run the election in the Chhattisgarh and the next general election. And I was asked to come. I said, I am just recovering. I have no home at Delhi. So finally, the election commissioner, the past election commissioner also came and met me. Finally, I went there as the Deputy Election Commission second time to deliver an election. Why I am telling this? Now I am reading one more thing. Another kind of model in this country could be, I am reading few, I will not tell name. I have no comment about the individuals. I will not value judge people, but I am telling you, a list I am telling you. 2024 elections over. Elections are over. The person who was holding the post of Chief Electoral Officer become the secretary advisor, the post I was holding, the very next week, from CEO office to CMO. Number one. Number two, there was another person who was working as the Deputy Election Commissioner of India, post I was holding, Deputy Election Commissioner of India at Delhi, was waiving all the cooling off condition, the way it was waived for a different reason for me. All the rules were waived and sent back to the Orissa government on a deputation, now appointed as a special secretary at that time to CM office. That means from Election Commission to CM office, from CEO to CM office. Okay, then a particular officer who was conducting the election, from where a person elected, and then the number of difference between the votes announced and then actually counted was the 30% difference. And that officer was promoted next week and now part of the CMO. And then another collector conducted election, joined as a private secretary to a minister in the government of India. And I have 5 such, all in CMO, under the same machinery. Let me tell you, I have resisted. Finally, I went to CMO after retirement, after being recalled, and just as a kind of an individual, I went there because my services are required. I feel proud. Ultimately, we have to keep in mind, it is the BNB system, now I am looking. What you are talking, in a way, asking the civil society to be vigilant. Is in a way, every booth level, there has to be a kind of a civil society which has to be vigilant. What is at stake actually, it's not A wins or B wins. I entirely agree with you. And because they always think in terms of this time we will win, next time they will win kind of thing. But the stakes are very, very high. And every vote counts. And ultimately, the technology people will be able to tell what all exactly happened. But I must tell that equally important, you have to really make the machinery feel conscious. Even the recent amendment made, where the election commissioners cannot be taken to court or complaint cannot be lodged, they were given lifelong immunity, is absolutely not in order. It is my duty to ensure that I am not suspected. I cannot be given a lifetime immunity. And second thing, appointment of the election commissioner. And then Chief Justice was put in the team. Again, the amendment was made. First, the cabinet secretary was proposed. Then again, the amendment was made, and a minister and the two secretaries put together a such a committee has been made. And finally, the opposition leader is there, and the third person is not there. There could be a system, leader of opposition or second largest party. Either way, the balance should not be in favor of the, somebody can choose, and we know it very well. So I have a think that there is something terribly wrong with the manner of appointment of the election commission, and the election commission's duty to ensure that the stakeholders are not suspecting them. It is, that means it's my duty to ensure that why we are refusing to join as a CMO, because the common man will think that this guy conducted the election, he has joined CMO. I cannot stand that. So that way you have to create a system where there is a demand and supply and push and pull factor. This country, these people, the electors have to demand a clear system, because that is the only way we can survive. India is the only country, first country, before creating a social reform, gave a political right for voting. Australia took lot many years, America took lot many years. India only having a constitution, having the word called social justice, only constitution word having a social justice. So enough, and I have a feeling that the people have to be energized, the stakeholding has to be felt, BLO is in place, BLA is in place, that is the two stakeholders, the BLA, whatever name you call it, the civil society has to be in place, and I agreed on being requested to come, because I could not have said no. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I know you have a lot more to share. We will take a video of more things which we should inform the public that we will do it. Thank you very much. Next speaker will be Mr. M.G. Devasahayam, IAS retired. He alone will be joining online. Okay. Now I request Mr. Kennedy to please present some books to the speakers, and I will request the next set of speakers to come to the stage. Yes, now I request Dr. Usha Ramanathan. Okay, that's a good thing. Yeah, after hearing M.G. Devasahayam, Mr. M.G. Devasahayam had been the pioneer who had been fighting the Election Commission of India, fighting in Supreme Court, bringing out series of reports. One is the Citizens Report on Elections, 2019 elections, then subsequently Vote for Democracy, the detailed report on 2024 elections, then Maharashtra elections, Haryana elections. Now they are working on the SIR also. So I will request Mr. M.G. Devasahayam to please speak to us.
Thank you, Sato. Sorry, I apologize for not being able to be physically present in my city of Chennai because of certain reasons. But I'd like to say certain things which are very blunt, because this is a national convention which is going to determine the way ahead, whether India will remain a democracy at all. And I'm being very frank about it. We have been involved in this for several years, more particularly interaction with the Election Commission of India. My intimate interaction with the Election Commission of India started in 2009-2010, when money power cash for vote was dominant going on in Tamil Nadu, and in close collaboration with the Election Commission of India, very close collaboration, civil society, Election Commission collaboration. We successfully combated this cash for votes, at least in that election which took place in Tamil Nadu. And point I am making is there was a very close liaison working between the Election Commission of India and the civil society represented by, of course, the NGOs and not-for-profit organizations. And exactly 15 years later now, in the last few years, the relationship between civil society and Election Commission is one of hostility, hostile. For the last 6, 7, 8 years, at least 5, 6 years at least, the Election Commission is considering civil society as enemy number one. And it's a totally hostile relations. And there is no Election Commission, as was being explained by Balakrishnan just now. The Election Commission considers itself completely subservient to the political authority, and they want to only sort of carry out their agenda. People, the stakeholders as we call it, there are 3 stakeholders, as you all know. The voter is the prime stakeholder, he is the mandating stakeholder. The Election Commission is only a facilitator, and political parties are beneficiaries. Voters have zero say in the election system. The election is being conducted. Everything is being done by the Election Commission. Political parties also have got very small say except the ruling party. So I wonder many times that elections are for whom and for what. People demand or not, for instance, Balakrishnan talked about the machine. See, why are we criticizing the machine? Why I am opposed to the machine? Because it doesn't perform the basic democracy principles. It's a black box. In the paper ballot, I know whom I have voted. I am counting the voting. I know I can see it once, twice, thrice. Counting also, it is counted in front of the counting agent, and everything is transparent. The voter will know to whom she has voted, the sovereign, the citizen. Machine, you are just pressing a button, you don't know what happens. It's total bypass. Fundamental democracy principles are not observed. That is why all the other countries have gone back to paper ballot. It's not because the machine is bad. Machine may be okay. We are not talking about machines at all. So then, but recently, the Election Commission, which Balakrishnan has served for several years, has weaponized the election system, taking advantage of technology, taking out of the black box. They have weaponized the election system and making it a total secretive exercise. What happens? Microprocessor, nobody knows who's manufactured the microprocessor which takes the memory and retains the memory where the votes are registered. Nobody knows who is manufacturing this microprocessor, what is their source code, no one knows either. Then there is something called symbol loading unit, where the name, candidates' names are loaded into the VVPAT. No one knows what is inside that. Somebody comes and loads it. What is loaded inside, no one knows. Total secret. Then there was a feeble effort to bring transparency through a machine called VVPAT, voter verifiable paper audit trail. Voter verifiable paper audit trail for verification and audit. That has been completely finished off. We are supposed to count the paper slips, completely finished off. And they have completely what we call, they distorted the whole system of elections. Voting, counting. They take 2 months to conduct the election, but they want to finish up counting in 5-6 hours time and announce the result, and that is where the fraud takes place. The voting system has been weaponized, and now the electoral rolls are being manipulated. Electoral roll, there is no rule, it is a roll system. No one knows what is happening in the electoral roll, and no participation by the people. Everything is government officials, so-called GLOs, GLEs, God alone knows what kind of people there are. The point I am trying to make is, with all the responsibility, I would like to say that India's election system is a complete rot. It is not a democratic system at all. So we keep on cursing, all right. The question is, cursing the darkness is not going to help. What is the way out? We have been giving suggestions to the Election Commission of India. They don't bother, because they are loyal to the bosses who appointed them, and they are completely committed, and they are not impartial at all. It's a completely partial system. So I would suggest certain means which will be part of the resolution also. Some of these areas that we have to, and all these have come out based on the studies that we have made, which Pratto has mentioned. Citizen Commission on Election made a detailed study of the 2019 Parliament election. Then Vote for Democracy made a detailed study of the 2024 Parliament election and some assembly elections, based on which we feel these are the minimum things that need to be done if India's election system has to have some kind of integrity and India's electoral democracy is alive. Number one, I think I could not hear Dr. Pradhakar, he must have explained what happens, the pumping of votes, furious injection of votes after completion of the voting 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. going up to 12%, 15%. Balakrishnan will mention about 30%. The horrendous, rotten, right draping is going on. Voting is over at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. Election Commissioner does not give the voting numbers, and they give some percentage, and they keep on increasing and increasing. And when we found states like Orissa in Parliament election in 2019, it was 12.5%. Jackass, 12.5%. Andhra Pradesh, 12.4%. Maharashtra, 8%. Tamil Nadu, 7.5%. Every state, jackass. Wherever the jackass took place, except in Tamil Nadu, the ruling party won hands down, because in Orissa, for instance, 43 lakh additional votes after 5 years. 43 lakhs in 21 constituencies, making more than 2 lakhs per constituency. Andhra Pradesh, 1.8 lakhs per constituency. All these are spurious injection of votes that are made possible because of the electronic voting machine. Now, the first demand will be, see, what has happened is they have brought in EVM, but system of election, county can say won't get a ballot system. They brought in digital, they brought in technology, communication, all revolutionized, but same old system is continuing. So the first demand that we must make is, they must start, as in every other democracy in the world, the counting starts immediately after the polling is over. There should be no gap. It is in this 2-3 days gap, or maybe larger gap, the hierarchy and fraud that takes place. Additional manipulation takes place. The counting must start immediately, like in every other country. And it can go on for hours and days. It can take much more time. Counting can take more time. Here they are making all the entire process done by counting. They hurry up the counting, they don't allow people to sort of raise any objection and declare the result. So, demand number one would be the counting must start as soon as the voting is over, and number one. Number two, the number of votes polled. As soon as the polling is over, within less than 3 hours, they must announce the total number of votes polled in absolute numbers. In absolute numbers, not in percentages. Because communication system has vastly improved, technology is there, they can easily do that, but they are deliberately not doing it in order to pump additional, like previous injection of votes. This is very, very important. So, then Form 17C. The Form 17C is the contraction introduced in the paper ballot system. Dr. Madhav Deshpande I hope he will be addressing on this. The 17C doesn't fit into the present system. Earlier it was paper ballot. Manual account was being held. Yes. So after the manual account was kept, after the completion of the polling station, the polling agents would be around the presiding officer and then verify. And they say, alright, so many votes have been polled. After 1,000 votes, 700 votes have been polled. And that is 17C. That is entered in 17C and stamped, signed and given to every polling agent. That is during the manual system. Now it's the electronic system. It's automatically counted. Every 2 hours it comes onto the list. So there has to be a technologically relevant sort of monitoring system, which I think Dr. Deshpande will be able to explain, if they want to continue with teaching. Otherwise, let them go back to the paper ballot. We have no problem. That would be a separate campaign that we will start later. Then, coming to long term, these are immediate. Long term, now this SIR is being talked about. They are talking about SIR revision. Tamil Nadu also, I think they have declared that they are going to start next week. Now, all the revision of the electoral rolls cannot be stopped. But not the way that is being done now, not the way it is being done in Bihar. It is absolutely wrong. They got to have a clear rule. First of all, the election commission must frame clear rules and pronounce them in the public. This is the rule. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Without the rule, you will not allow such to take place. Second, there must be social audit. We have no faith in the government machinery headed by this election. There has to be a social audit of the electoral roll by the panchayat, in village panchayat, villages, in wards. Suitable arrangement can be made. It was attempted in 2003, then it was given up. So there has to be a social audit where the voter will be totally involved. They will certify the veracity of the electoral vote. We don't have faith in the election agents and we don't have much confidence in the political parties. People must audit. Unless these two conditions are met, we should not allow the search to take place. Period. Whether the High Court orders, Supreme Court orders, People's Court is the final authority. These fellows are getting covered by the courts, High Courts in India, Supreme Court in India. At the end of the day, democracy is not protected by that. Democracy is for the people. And in the long term, then, of course, eventually, unless we go back to paper ballot, I don't think we have to do. Finally, a very important point. The entire election machinery, Bharat is talking about election machinery. Machinery needs to be decentralized democracy. The highly concentrated Central Election Commission must be cut down to size. The only way is to go back to Article 289 of the original Constitution of India, where Central Election Commission will hold only Parliament election, President, Vice President election, and the State Election Commission will hold the State Assembly election. That is the original plan. That is the original Constitution. The number got changed to Article 324, centralizing everything. That was because there was no State Election Commission then. But in 1992-93, after 74 amendment, we have State Election Commission, which is conducting centralized elections and urban local body elections. So we have a State Election Commission. Same IAS officers, same kind of setup. So there is no reason why the Central Election Commission must conduct election commission in Tamil Nadu. I reject the concept. I would like election commission located in Chennai, near the people, talking to the people, conducting the election, responding. For instance, if Tamil Nadu wants to go for paper ballot, yes, they will go for paper ballot. If Punjab wants, Haryana wants to do EVM, let them do. We are talking about a democracy. We are talking about not a centralized autocracy. So these are long-term demands that we must come out with. Finally, I would like to conclude by saying that at the end of the day, it is a people democracy is meant for. It is not for political parties. It is not for the ruling party. It is not for the Election Commission of India. It is for the people of India, we the people of India. All these are created by we the people of India. The first was the Constitution of India. We the people of India, we gave ourselves the Constitution. All these are creatures of the Constitution, which we the people did. So, if you think the political parties will give you the resolution, no. With all my respect to the political parties, they are only interested in sharing power. If they come to power, they will be very happy. But unfortunately, that is the only instrument that we have now. But unless people assert themselves and going for these demands, take the movement throughout the country. I have a lot of people representing from other parts of India over here. I only wish that you take it forward as a major revolution. Wishing you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The articles of Mr. M.G. Devasahayam, Anjali Bharadwaj, many other articles, including Dr. Parakala, are there in the English book, and Tamil book has articles of Justice Hari Parandaman and other people. Whoever wants to get a copy, while going out, you can take. Those who want English, you take English copy. Those who want Tamil, you can take the Tamil copy. You can give some donation. We will be happy to get your donations for this work. I am not putting any price. Except that book on electoral democracy, that's a published book which is not available online. That is costing 700. Those who want to purchase, that's a beautiful narrative of how the election system is. So that you can buy. Now I request Senthil to make some announcement. Senthil, where is Senthil?
He's over there, straight behind.
Senthil, about this translation, he is doing all the English speeches, he is translating and it is made available on online. How to access it, that he will tell.
ஒரு கூகுள் டாக்ல டைப் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன், அந்த குரூப்ல போட்டிருக்கேன் அந்த கூகுள் லிங்க்கு
எந்த குரூப்?
நம்ம அந்த எலக்ட்ரல் டெமோக்ரஸி குரூப்பில் போட்டிருக்கேன். வேணுங்கிறவங்க இப்போ என்கிட்ட மொபைலில் கேட்டு வாங்கிக்கங்க, அந்த லிங்க் உங்களுக்கு அனுப்புகிறேன்.
சைமல்டேனியஸாக ஆங்கிலத்தில் பேசுகிறதெல்லாம் தமிழில் அவர் டைப் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்கிறாரு, மொபைலில் நீங்கள் பார்க்க முடியும். அது எப்படி அக்சஸ் பண்ணுறதுன்னு நீங்கள் தேவைப்படுறவங்க அவர்கிட்ட கேட்டுக்கலாம். ஸோ திஸ் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் பார்ட் ஆஃப் தி செஷன் இஸ் ஓவர். வாட் இஸ் த த்ரெட், என்ன ஆபத்துன்றதை பற்றி பேசியிருக்கிறோம். தேவசாயம் சார் என்ன செய்யணும்னு ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டாங்க. அதைத் தொடர்ந்து we will have other speakers, Dr. Usha Ramanathan, Dr. Anjali Bharadwaj. Please come to the stage. Dr. Ponraj, Dr. Madhav Deshpande will be speaking online. Please come to the stage. So how to face this challenge? That is the second part. What kind of response is required? That the other speakers will be speaking now, but they will also highlight on what are the issues more than what has been told already. They will also add. I request first Dr. Usha Ramanathan to please start. Arun.
Thank you. We are dealing with institutions while we are dealing with everything else. So I think we've dealt with the Election Commission quite extensively, and I think we'll hear more about it. But there are other institutions too which are involved. I've been given the task. I've also taken on the task of figuring out what the judiciary, what is the role of the judiciary in all of this? What can we expect? What can we do to make it come to heel? What is the experience that we've had so far that should give us some confidence, but more, unfortunately, which will make us lose confidence? I don't think we can, I completely agree that I don't think we should depend on institutions. It has to be a people's movement, especially when change like this happens. In the past 10 years, 15 years, we've seen the kind of change which, and in the past, I think since demonetization, especially, we've seen a change in the way in which the state is viewing people. People are, all of us today are like customers of the state. They will give us some things, they'll take some things away, we'll be controlled, we'll be told what we are allowed to do, we'll be mandated to do some things, we'll be told what we cannot do. So there's a lot of instruction and expectation from us as a people, and we are being told that whatever the state does, we have to be grateful for it, have no expectation. So there is something completely wonky in this. And when Dr. Bhargava Prabhakar was speaking, and he said about the state wanting a different people, actually Bertolt Brecht wrote a poem on that after the 1917 revolution. He was talking about how the normal thing is that when the people don't like a government, the people will vote out the government. But in this case, the state, as it gets stronger and stronger, it finds that it doesn't like the people, and so it wants to vote out the people and to create its own people. The SIR and what is happening with elections is one part of it, where I think it's so plain that sometimes it amazes me how brazenly these things can be done. You would expect that there will be coating it in some sugar pill or something. There is nothing. They're just being told, this is who you are, this is what we think of you, and this is what we're going to do. Let's see what you can do about it. The thing is that in the political space, and where power is just power, and people are hanging on to power for a long time, I can still understand that the nature of power makes them act like that. The judiciary is a different game, and I'll just talk about the judiciary today. The thing is that there are many problems with the judiciary. It's not only of corruption, it's institutionally there are many problems with the judiciary. And it's not only of ideology. There are people who might not belong to any particular ideology. I mean, I don't think anyone doesn't have a politics. If you don't have a politics, that's a politics. So, but it's, it may not be ideologically wanting to do something. There are many judges like that. And the unfortunate thing is that, it's not just judges and lawyers, and I hope there are some here. In fact, I would disagree with Dr. Parakala Prabhakar that you shouldn't tell the political parties what he said. What's the point of saying it if you don't say it to them? They need to hear it, and I presume that's what you were asking us to do. When I say don't do, do. Right? That's the presumption. So and I have no clue where I came there, so I'll just start from wherever I was. The thing is that in recent times we found that there are some questions that were not asked before, the way they are being asked now. One fundamental issue I think that we are having to deal with, even as we deal with the election.
Otherwise, you can use this hand mic now.
Protest is universal.
Yes.
So the one issue I think that we are all confronted with and we should really be worried about is the question of citizenship. I don't think any of us would have expected some time ago that people will be feeling insecure about their citizenship. And I don't think there is much doubt that this has to do with an anti-Muslim sentiment among ruling classes, but I don't think that's all. And the way in which we saw what happened in Assam, and Assam should really have us worried. Not just because of what is happening in Assam now. This started in the late 90s. Now, of course, it started in the 80s. It started in the 70s after the Bangladesh war. But till the 80s, we were still seeing India as part of the Indian subcontinent. We didn't think of neighbors as, forget about states, neighboring people as being people who threatened each other. There was a way in which there was a movement of population. There was a similarity in our populations. We have a common heritage. I don't think that the borders that were drawn when the British left is what determined how we dealt with each other as a people. We find that changed somewhere, after the Bangladesh war, there was some change. But if you look at what, after the Assam Accord, the kind of law that was brought in, the amendment that was brought into the Citizenship Act, we find that they actually talk about that whole region as belonging to the Indian subcontinent, which is why they said, okay, people who've come here, although we say independence was in 1947, partition happened at that time, we do acknowledge that this, the commonality amongst us and the movement, our borders are not, they're political borders, they are not human borders. So people have come and gone, people have settled, people have had lives here, people have had children here, and those children are part of this country. So the second time that we said we are drawing a line in relation to people was in 1971. We said, okay, till 1971, whoever's been here, we will, they can all become part of India. The problem was political. The problem was that there was this suspicion that people were being brought into the country and were being settled to further electoral prospects of some party, basically of the Congress at that time. And then, therefore, when after the Assam Accord, the Citizenship Act was changed, once a person registered saying I've been here from, from 1971, from before 1971, they were entitled to every right of citizenship except the right to vote. which was suspended for 10 years. So you register, you say I've been here, including the passport, and passport is really a statement of your citizenship that you declare to the rest of the world, and the state supports you on it. So we didn't see people as, we didn't see the otherness in a way where we felt we can't integrate, we can't live together. We didn't have that sense at all. It's in 1987 that we find that the first shift starts happening. In 87 they say, if a child is born in India and if either parent is an Indian, then the child will have a right to Indian citizenship. It was still, making those distinctions, why we needed to do it, we'll have to think about, but it was a political moment. They still did not deny citizenship to a child born in India if either of the parents was Indian. It's in 2003 that we start seeing the decline. And in 2003, you have an amendment that is brought into the Citizenship Act where they say that if either parent is an illegal migrant, then let's remember that illegal migrant is by determination by somebody else. If you are not able to establish that you are a citizen, if you don't have documents, this is the first time we have to become documentary citizens. Being there for 6 months at a time and being found there again, all that becomes irrelevant because now they are beginning to ask for various kinds of documents which many people will not have. And actually, I think one of the fascinating documents that I found when I was reading up on all of this years ago was the report on the first election that were held. In 1955 there was that the chief election commissioner, the election commissioner at that time had issued a document and he wrote up how they conducted that first election. And it's fascinating that in 1951-52, we hadn't yet settled our population along the borders. People didn't know whether you were going to, when you went to, what was Pakistan, what was India, what did it mean if you went across the border, what happens if half the family goes there and half is here. See, these are not things that the South has really confronted. And when I went to Delhi first and I started living there, the first time I asked a Punjabi friend for some literature on the partition, she said she would give me anything I wanted because I was a South Indian who was mentioning the word partition. Because we just don't think enough about it. And that in that whole region, this is a very, it's been a turbulent, turbulent in terms of citizenship, in terms of settling, in terms of families. It's been very big. So our political borders got determined even a little more strongly after 1971, but we still didn't do exclusion. Now, why am I saying all this when I'm going to talk about the judiciary? Because the judiciary has been at the center since 1999, at the center of this anxiety that they've shown that, if we allow this to continue, if we allow people to come in and then claim citizenship here, very soon Assam will go to Bangladesh. This anxiety, of course, in history, we know that there was also a possibility at the time that India became independent and partition was happening that Assam could have come here or, gone to Pakistan. That's a long time past. And I don't think anybody is even thinking about it now. And like one of the lawyers in Assam who's practicing in the Foreigners Tribunal and in the High Court there said, if this anxiety, which was, one person from the army makes a statement like this, it's a xenophobic statement. But it was his anxiety. If you make a person's anxiety state policy in relation to people, and then the judiciary adopts it and says that, oh, so this could happen, and like the lawyer said, by now there would only be Bangladeshis in Assam if that anxiety had come through by now. So these are things that are not happening around us, they are happening only in minds, and our minds are getting pushed into these corners. So we are being told that we need to have a complete revamp of electoral rolls, because it's in electoral rolls that all these people come in and then they put themselves in, and these are actually foreigners. So this, I think the first thing we need to do is, even for ourselves, to stop thinking in terms of legality and illegality and think in terms of humanity again, because these are not, people are not enemies of each other. So if there has been movement, that's one thing we acknowledge. The thing is, if we do accept, suppose we do accept that we do need to have a time when we just have a national citizens register, do we have any means of doing it? Is there something that anybody has, that everybody will have, which will establish that they've been, in this country from the beginning. Can everyone have it? People who don't have property. People, we are all people who've seen it, and some of us have studied it, that when you have ration cards, in the early 2000s, they said in Delhi, they said you have to change your ration card, you have to update it. They took away the old ration card to give the new ration card, which means you don't have anything saying you've been there from before then. And state systems, and let's be clear about this, like that's what's happening with SIR too. State systems are saying that our records are not clean. You better come and prove that you are who you are, then we'll update our records on that. So if I go to the election, if I go to the election commission, go to a municipality or go anywhere and say, can I please have my birth certificate in the municipal record? They may not have it. And it's not their responsibility. There is a huge burden that is being shifted onto people, onto every individual in this country. And this is not even to families, it's to every individual to establish that they have a right, that they are citizens of this country, and they've been that for a long, long time. Now the courts have no ability to recognize this. We know that the whole Assam process was actually pushed by the courts. It was Justice Gogoi's bench which kept pushing that agenda and saying, finish it fast, finish it fast. We need to find out who all these illegal migrants are and we need to throw them out. And we know what a disaster that has been. In fact, one of the interesting, when we talk technology, how some of them want to move away from acknowledging it. TCS, which was involved in the whole exercise, they had advertised themselves as having participated in this process of the National Population Register in Assam, and then they found what a disaster it was, and they pulled out that from their, website. Then India Today caught it, they wrote about it, and then TCS had to put it back because it was an embarrassment to have it there, and then withdrawing it, it was an embarrassment not to put it back. So there are many ways in which the tragedy of citizenship is playing out in our country, and I am not sure at all that the court has shown itself able to understand what it is. I'm also making a point of this because in the SIR, they have now said that, the Election Commission, and I think this has been said ad nauseum, and I'm just going to add to that nausea to say it, but the Election Commission has no business determining citizenship. They have no role in determining citizenship. If there is anyone who has to attempt to do it, it has to be the Registrar General of India, and it can't be just anybody. And it certainly cannot, the Registrar General of India comes under the Home Ministry, but Home Ministry can't decide who a citizen is and who is not. The Election Commission certainly doesn't have that right. If they have any doubt about the citizenship of a person, they can ask institutions which are like the FRRO or Foreigners Tribunal or something to see if their name has been declared as being a non-citizen. The default mode is that a person is a citizen unless proven otherwise, and that's getting lost somewhere in this. So and since this is about people's movements, I just want to bring back to the fore this idea of non-cooperation. This is something that we thought about when the UID Aadhaar was on. And we said that, they come and tell you, I won't give you your, you can't have your bank account unless you go and link you get a UID and link it up. And all of us neatly go. People keep asking, oh, you still haven't done it. It's like there is a point at which we stop being citizens and start becoming subjects. I think we need to change that mindset. If there are going to be people in our midst who are going to be challenged in their citizenship either because they don't have documents to establish it, so if they say that you have to, I'm sorry, there's no good word for Purvigam, ancestry doesn't quite fit it. So if they say that that's what you have, many people don't have it. And some people will get away without it because they are not suspect, they are not doubted. So we know who will be doubted. Now if there are going to be, like Dalits who get well left out because they will have very few documents to show for anything at all. So what are we going to do? They've never held property. They've been battling for property for the longest time. And most of the other documents, the SIR was fascinating because what does it mean if I've done my matriculation and I have a matriculation certificate from Bihar? Does it mean anything at all? And it's not even a qualification to be a voter. So why are we even using this? So the thing is that if there are going to be so many people in our midst who are not going to be able to establish themselves sufficiently to be part of this, democratic system, then should we be cooperating with that system? This is the country that invented non-cooperation, and we seem to have forgotten what it means. We are like, okay, we'll comply, and then we'll see if we can help other people comply. And compliance is actually not an option. I don't know, even in this room, how many people can produce all the documents needed for citizenship. It's a different thing, they may not ask us. They may ask some of us, but they may not ask everybody. It depends on who they want to exclude and who they want to be kept in. So the first thing is the impossibility of establishing citizenship for many people. The second thing is, if many people can't do it, should those who can just go ahead and say, okay, let me save myself. Is that even people's action? And the third is, can we depend upon a court to do something like this? And I think we know now that it's not just about courts being, judges being good, bad, corrupt, not corrupt. It's not just that. It's also, to a great extent, judges, for one thing, they're overwhelmed. If they do 60 cases a day, I don't think they can apply their mind sufficiently to anything at all. And the second thing is, I don't really think they understand the polity. They are people who moved away from the common people. They have not been among them. In that sense, even persons in politics, if they get out among people, are a better bet and a safer bet than people who are sitting in courts. So either we take the responsibility of informing them, of educating them, that they understand this before we take any issue to them, or we don't depend on them. The problem is that somebody will go, and then they will make whatever decision they want. We have to find a way of addressing this. It can't be that we just, there is no full stop at the end of a judgment. Even the courts have said that. They say first they said review petition, then they said curative petition. So they've said, there is always the thing that the Supreme Court is not fallible, is not final because it's infallible, but infallible because it's final. And in India we've said, no, there is no finality. We can, you can give two senior advocates, say that there is a good case for you. You can go back and reopen a case that had been closed a long time ago. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's an acknowledgement by the system that it does not have the wherewithal to be able to decide correctly a lot of the time. And I think we need to, this is too serious. Citizenship is too serious for us to leave in the hands of an institution like this unless we take the responsibility of educating them, in which case we can take it to them maybe at some stage for certain reasons, but there is no full stop at the end of it. And I think we need to acknowledge that. The second thing is about impunity. I think there's a lot of impunity. In the late 90s, when impunity became a word, it came because of the International Criminal Court. And they said, there are states that commit, or people who take shelter from states, and then they commit very egregious crimes against humanity, genocide, war crimes. And it was taken away, that protection was called impunity. We knew immunity. We didn't know impunity. Now it is common parlance. We all know that impunity shields people from accountability. So what we need to do is to tear down impunity. The problem with this is that when courts take a long time to make decisions, you take the demonetization case. Now, I don't know why the court took time with that, because they should actually have heard it immediately and not taken any time at all. But it's one of the ways in which the court works, that it says, issue notice, call people, keep it after a month, let's see if it resolves itself. That's a very common thing, and that's why I think we heard this morning too about, at the end of a process, a court saying, it's all over, why are you raking it up all over again? This happens because courts don't know how to deal with many of these things. They don't know whether they should be saying demonetization is bad or good. But suppose actually demonetization stops terrorism, then should we be saying no to it? So what has happened in these about 25, 30 years in the Supreme Court and in many of the high courts, high courts follow what the Supreme Court does too, is that principle has been replaced by pragmatism. So the principle is that everyone should have liberty. Pragmatism is that some people may need to be put away. If the state feels that some people should not be out and that they will break public order and rule of law and all of that, then maybe the court should not come in to say that you should let the state act. So we are seeing now, for instance, when in the context of ending nationalism, the number of people who are being shot in encounters, well, they're being shot, I don't know if they're encounters, but whatever, they are being shot. Actually, no country would tolerate its people being shot as a matter of state policy. State policy is to eliminate Naxalism and in the process maybe eliminate Naxalites. Now if we say this today, they say, oh, you are urban Naxals, you are sitting here and supporting them. No, we are actually holding the state to account in relation to the constitution. The state does not have the power of life and death over people. They can help in producing life, in providing, bettering life, but they have no power to kill us. The only process which also many of us object to is the death penalty, and the death penalty really needs to go because we've seen what the history of the death penalty in this country has been. So this is also why a court will tolerate and be very soft on extraordinary laws. What does it mean to have something that can be called extraordinary laws? Why do ordinary laws not suffice? And what is different between an extraordinary law and an ordinary law? You find it even something like the Financial Action Task Force is sitting inside the UAPA today. What does it even mean? What does it tell us about our polity and what does it tell us that we have not noticed? We have not raised a stink about it. So what does it tell us about ourselves too? I'll just stop with one more thing, and there is a lot, but I know that time is short. But I just have to say this one thing, that in the proceedings in the Supreme Court that have been going on the SIR, I have worked on the UID for a long time, and so I cannot not say this. I was deeply disappointed to see that we had gone to the court, and the court was saying, why don't you also add the Aadhaar? Put the Aadhaar also in it. Like it is, why don't you add a little bit of sugar to your coffee? And it was accepted. One reason that it was accepted, it seems, and I've talked to some of the people who are involved in the litigation, and one reason that they said we'll accept it is because actually people don't have, most people who don't have any other document have an Aadhaar. So they felt that, okay, at least this will help them get on to the database, to the voter database. But actually, if you think about it for a minute, already the Election Commission has said maybe 175 times that they will take their Aadhaar, but they need one more document to supplement it, that this by itself will not be sufficient. So what have we done? We have asked everybody to go and give the UID number to the Election Commission. There is already a case pending in court, and this is the other thing about the courtroom. Courts have not only, they don't have institutional memory, they don't even know what is happening in other parts of their own court, their own court premises. There is a case that has been filed by Sudhir Bombarkare, and he's challenged there, when the Election Commission said that you must attach your UID to the voter ID, he challenged it saying this is very dangerous for democracy. Why did he say that? He said because the moment, we were talking about people being able to see things at the booth level. The UID today for the poor especially, and for those who depend on state support, it is linked with everything, every system in which they are involved. Everything. Now you have the voter ID also this is just one of the reasons he gives. You have the voter ID also being attached to the UID also being attached to the voter ID. In every booth they'll be able to see who did you vote for and to decide how you will punish them. This is not it's no longer hypothetical. It's already happened. I remember during the Kudangulam protests here, it was a different context, it was not the UID. Some of the protesters took their voter ID card and threw it into the district magistrate's compound. And then the district magistrate has it all collected and said, find out who these people are, if these people have ration cards, and we'll cancel their ration cards. Why? Because if they don't care about, the voter ID and election, because people were saying, you're not listening to us anyway, what is the point of this? It was a symbolic protest. Now the symbolism was lost on them. They took it literally and said, if you don't want this, then you are not entitled to your rations either. We've seen in state after state, linking up the UID with anything else endangers that system. So we are basically saying that, okay, let's put it on. And we also know that the one thing that they are shouting from the rooftops is that UID is not, it's not a statement of citizenship. So what is it going to get people by putting this, linking these two up? If the people have to anyway give one more identity, go and establish themselves again. It's not going to establish their citizenship. It's going to link all of this up and make people even more vulnerable than they were when they began. What is the point of this that we have ourselves suggested, and why does the court suggest this? What is the court thinking the UID is? It hasn't read its own judgment. It doesn't know what's happening in another court. It doesn't understand the system. And it's a very sweet and charming kind of statement that's made, but why don't you take this also? And they say, okay, we'll take that also, but we will give you nothing for it. So just think about what all this means. I mean, going to a court is, unfortunately now, in recent times, not recent time, over 40 years, it's not like my case will go to court only when I go to court. Today, anybody can take matters to court, and so very often people are doing it to preempt other people from going to court. But I think we need to do a lot of preparation because judges themselves are not prepared. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my dear sister, Dr. Usha Ramanathan. You should all read on recent we will listen to Dr. Anjali Bharadwaj. She has been fighting issues related to right to information. She has also brought out, they have a Sankadan which has brought out 20 years of RTI, which is published in the book which we have released today that you can go through. I request Anjali Bharadwaj to please take it.
Zindabad, friends. And thank you for having me here. It's a great honor and a pleasure to hear everyone who's spoken since the morning, and I'm really looking forward to listening to the other speakers today as well. I think what has been established beyond doubt is that there are very, very grave challenges that our democracy faces today. One of the primary reasons for the democratic backslide that we are observing is the collapse of our institutions. The institutions of accountability, of oversight, that were supposed to protect our constitutional rights as citizens, that were supposed to uphold our democracy, we are seeing how they have been systematically compromised. They were supposed to stand as a bulwark against state excesses, against excesses of the executive, and we are watching them with impunity, the word that Usha used, stand with the executive, with those in power, and strike at the very heart of our democracy. Because what they are really essentially doing is going after political opposition and anyone who dares to dissent. I'm going to come to the topic of the conclave, which is electoral democracy, and therefore I'm going to also focus largely on the Election Commission of India. The body that was set up by the Constitution to ensure that in India we can have free and fair elections. We saw that by and large, since independence, by and large, the Election Commission performed its function in a transparent, meaningful manner. But the last 8 or 9 years, the actions and the inactions actions of the Election Commission have been extremely worrying to all of us as citizens of the country. We saw how this selective action, the Election Commission is supposed to be a referee. We see them as referees in a match when an election is happening. We've seen how systematically there is selective action. When there are complaints that are filed by anybody against the opposition, they act with absolute alacrity. But the moment there is any complaint of violation of the Model Code of Conduct, there is a hate speech, there's an allegation of hate speeches being made, very egregious comments, communal comments being made by the leaders of the ruling party, including the Prime Minister. Then suddenly Namo TV coming just before the 2019 elections, there is absolute deafening silence. And that's really making people understand today that there is something wrong with the referee. They are not being able to play the role that they were constitutionally mandated to play. Voter turnout, some people talked about that, so I'll go into it in some detail because we've been working on that issue. It's the most basic thing in a democracy. People came on the day of election, they voted. Why should citizens not know how many people came to vote? Voter turnout is just that. And we are seeing how the Election Commission is playing with that very basic thing. The Election Commission, for the first time in 2024, did not put out the absolute number of people who came to vote in the elections. For 11 days, after the first two phases of election, we did not hear anything about the voter turnout. There was a hue and cry, and then after the first two phases, 11 days passed, and the Election Commission put out voter turnout in percentage forms. Even the percentage figures that were given at the time of close of polling on the day of voting, if you compared it to the final voter turnout that was given in percentage terms, there was an unprecedented increase, 7%, 8% increase. In states like Odisha, there was a 30% increase. And we are not saying it as citizens. The BJD, which was the ruling party over there at that time, has written a letter to the Election Commission saying 30% increase. What is happening? You give us a figure at the end of polling on the day of voting, and then you give us a final figure a couple of days later, and there's a 30% increase. What was happening? So naturally people are saying, give us the document that has the voter turnout. There is only one statutory document that registers the voter turnout, and that is Form 17C, Part 1. I think thousands of citizens have been doing their duty and asking for a copy of Form 17C. The Election Commission, with great shamelessness, I'm sorry to say, and impunity, has refused to give a copy of Form 17C. What is secret about the voter turnout? What are they saying? They're saying, sorry, we cannot give it to you. You as citizens have no right to ask for Form 17C. We give it to the polling agent of the candidate who's sitting there. Are the elections meant for the polling agents? Are the elections being conducted in our country for the candidates or the political parties? Are they not being conducted for the people of this country to choose their representatives? Is the Election Commission so out of touch with reality, with the Constitution? The Election Commission till date, May 2024, the general elections happened. We are standing today in October 2025. They have not released the figures of the Form 17C, the absolute number. Before Christmas, as a Christmas gift, they delivered on 24 December a treasure trove. They called it a treasure trove of information. They said now researchers can go and they can look at what happened in the largest democracy of the country in the elections. We went with great hope that now finally, okay, they are not uploading Form 17C, but at least the figures they have given. The first disclaimer that you had to accept was that this not Form 17C figures. Till date, we don't have the actual turnout that was registered in Form 17Cs in the country in the election where the ruling party came back to power a third time. We don't have that basic figure. Maharashtra elections, which happened after the 24 elections. 70 lakh people were mysteriously standing in queues outside the polling stations when at 5 o'clock polling ended. So people said, fine, if you are saying that to us, we want to verify. They asked for the presiding officer's diary. Now the presiding officer's diary, we have Mr. Balakrishnan sitting here and others who know a lot about the electoral system. The presiding officer's diary has the number of coupons that are issued to people who are standing at the time of closing of poll, 5 o'clock, when they say that we are not going to accept more people coming in to vote. They issue coupons. Only those who have coupons can go in and vote. So the presiding officer's diary has a note of how many coupons were given out. People said, give us the presiding officer's diary, we'll check whether 70 lakh people were issued coupons or not. People said, give us the CCTV footage. You are putting up CCTV footage, CCTVs everywhere. Give us the footage, we will check whether those 70 lakh people were standing there or not standing there. Why is CCTV footage important? All of us remember the Chandigarh mayor elections. Mr. Anil Masi, who was the presiding officer, made sure that he tampered with the ballot papers to make the BJP win. And how did that come out? Because the CCTV footage came out. Now people want to know, can you please give us the CCTV footage in Maharashtra elections and other elections? What is the response of the election commission? We cannot compromise the privacy of our Bahu Betis. Our daughters-in-law, our daughters, our mothers. Did you take consent from any of us when we went to vote? Are those CCTV cameras being put up there for personal viewing of anybody? When people are demanding accountability, that's when you remember the privacy of women and you will hide behind it. Haryana elections, people again went and asked for Form 17C for CCTV footage, presiding officer's diary. The election commission flatly refused, which none of us were surprised about, and somebody went to the Punjab and Haryana High Court. The High Court looked at the matter and said, what is this rubbish? Please give. The conduct of election rules, rule number 93, deals with transparency of election records. Rule 93(1) clearly says what records are exempt, can't be given. Rule 93(2) says every other record has to be given. So 93(1) has things like marked ballot papers. We are not asking for marked ballot papers. But other information has to be provided under 93(2). So the High Court said every piece of information that has to be given under 93(2), please provide it to people. What does the Election Commission, our constitutional body, our referee for elections do? It doesn't give people the information, it runs to the central government and says, please amend the rules, the conduct of election, rules 93(2). Many people accessed papers on how this was done, and it showed clearly how the Election Commission wrote to the central government, and within 24 hours the central government acted. So in a matter of 10 days, the conduct of election rules were changed, instead of giving us information that in any democracy we ought to have. Transparency, this is where we are on our state of transparency and accountability to the people of India. Who is the Election Commission accountable to? They have completely forgotten. Same thing is happening when allegations of vote chori are coming up. It is true that our opposition parties are not, painting themselves in glory. But even where, with evidence, the leader of opposition comes out, makes such damning statements instances, I mean, anybody would think in this country that why are we wasting money on elections? He's standing there, he's saying fake voters in a constituency, Bangalore Central, out of 6 lakh voters, 1 lakh were fake. The winning margin in that constituency was 33,000. What do elections mean? He's saying they're duplicate voters. There are many voters, bulk voters living at the same address. There are people whose fathers' names are ABCDEFGH. In Alan constituency, he's saying that mass deletions are happening in a systematic way. Anyone who's registered on number 1 in the voter list suddenly goes and asks for deletion of names. It seems to be done in a centralized manner. Media reports are coming out saying 80 rupees per deletion of name. I mean, what are we talking about? What electoral democracy are we talking about? And our other institutions are sitting and watching quietly. Usha has talked about it. So we have a situation today where the Election Commission, as any normal citizen would expect, should have called an emergency meeting. After the first press conference, we should have seen the Election Commission in a tizzy calling a meeting saying all the political parties should come, they should sit with us, tell us what happened. After all, the Election Commission is only 800 people strong. There are only 800 employees in the people in the Election Commission. Everybody else, Mr. Balakrishnan will tell us, is on deputation from the government. So the Election Commission should have said, come and give us the complaints, we will act on it, we will set up an inquiry, and done a meeting. And I am going to say this, there are Supreme Court, there are progressive high courts where there have been progressive chief justices, who are now doing live webcast of their proceedings. Why can't the Election Commission, to win the trust of the people of the country, have done a live telecast of the meeting that it held with all the political parties and said, here, I have nothing to hide. Instead, what is the Election Commission saying? The Election Commission says, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, give us an affidavit. He's standing in front of all the cameras, making an allegation. They're saying that's not enough. He's showing all those 1 lakh names. I'm not saying they're all right or wrong, I don't know. But should the Election Commission not have taken that seriously? They're saying, no, give us an affidavit, otherwise we can't do anything about it. What is the message that we are being given? They're asking for machine-readable voter lists. There is voter fraud happening. We know that voter lists are the soft underbelly of our election system. You can decide the outcome of elections before the elections happen if you tamper properly with the voter list. That is what is being told by the leader of opposition is happening in the country. They're asking for machine-readable voter list. What is the explanation that our chief election officer gives? He's a graduate from IIT. He says we cannot give it in machine-readable format because citizens might morph it. And if they morph it and they change your photograph to somebody else's photograph, when you go to vote, you will not be able to vote. If I morph it on my personal computer, how do I morph it on the ECI's computer? What joke is being played on the people of the country is what is completely inexplicable today. SIR, I'm not going to go in detail, it's been talked about. We've seen the manner in which the Bihar SIR was done. Rupesh ji is sitting here. The rush. What is the rush? You have elections happening in 2 months' time and you're saying, no, everybody, 8 crore people, 9 crore people, everybody come to us, prove your citizenship, otherwise you will lose the right to vote. How does this work? We are seeing that people whose names are deleted from the voter list, yeah, please do purification, but do it in a proper manner. You're deleting names of people from the voter list, and then you're saying we'll neither tell you the reason nor the names. We'll not tell you whose name is being deleted. unless the Supreme Court says, please give the names at least of deleted people. You are saying so many people died, at least put out their names so that people can verify. Any journalist who shows the truth on the ground there is an FIR against them. How is this happening? This whole capture, one of the primary ways in which this is being done, not just in the Election Commission but also in other bodies, is through the selection process. That's where the rot starts. The selection, as per the Constitution, was supposed to be done around a law that was made by Parliament. So a law was supposed to be made to decide how election commissioners will be selected. The law was not made for the longest time. The executive, the ruling party, was making the selections. When the matter was agitated in the Supreme Court, in the Arun Baranwal matter, the Supreme Court gave a landmark judgment. The Supreme Court said no, the referee cannot be decided by one of the teams. So the selection committee should not have a preponderance of the ruling party representatives. It should be a balanced committee and a law should be brought in. Till a law is brought in, we are saying that the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition and the Chief Justice of India will do the selection. What does the central government do? It immediately, before the next selection had to be made, went and got a law, pushed a law through Parliament, in which the Chief Justice was replaced by one of the Union Cabinet Minister. So it's the Prime Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, who's been selected so far as the Union Cabinet Minister to be on the committee, and the Leader of Opposition. 2:1. Blatant violation of what the Supreme Court is saying. The matter was again taken to court that this is contempt. How can you do this? The matter is litigation. It is one of the matters that Usha was referring to. The Supreme Court is choosing to take its own time, doesn't have the time. It's such a trivial matter. You know, why take it up on any urgent basis? And this is not the only way in which our electoral democracy is being compromised. Money power. We've seen how big a role money plays in our elections today. Electoral bonds were brought in. Electoral bonds were brought in to open the floodgates of unlimited political funding to political parties in an anonymous manner. Nobody would get to know who's funding which political party. Nobody funds a political party out of charity. They do it because they want something in return from the political party in power. And this sort of a scheme was brought in. Everybody kept shouting, from the RBI governor to the Election Commission to citizens, saying this will increase black money, money laundering, this will corrupt elections completely. The government went ahead and did it. The government went ahead and did it, but the Supreme Court sat on it for 7 years. The Supreme Court did not stop this complete violation of people's right to know in a democracy for 7 long years and allowed the coffers of political parties, especially the ruling party, which got a majority of the electoral bonds. They were filled and they were fighting elections one after the other, 2 general elections and all state elections in the country. Now that has been shut down. What about PM Cares? PM Cares was set up during COVID to help with disaster relief. Now when we are asking for who has given money, where is the money going, the government is saying, look, the trust is a private trust. The PM Cares Fund Trust, the chairperson is the Prime Minister, and ministers of our country, union ministers, are on the board. But it's a private trust. They've collected more than 13,000 crore rupees. So this is the government is saying this is the private trust of the ruling party. Now that's exactly where quid pro quo must be happening. How do we not know that? How do we know as citizens that that's not what is happening? Electoral bonds stop, but now give money to the ruling party through PM Cares and get your favors done. Paisa lo, contract do. Paisa lo, policy banao. This is what is happening, and I'm going to stop in 2 minutes. Comrade Franco. Other institutions are equally complicit. The Supreme Court, Usha has talked about. The judiciary, we are seeing how it is behaving. But the ED, the CBI, the Lokpal, they're all acting as extended arms of the ruling party in compromising the electoral outcomes. There are reports which are clearly showing that since 2014, the ED has taken up cases against political figures, political leaders. 95% of the cases are against opposition leaders. As if our ruling party, which has all the powers to do everything, there's no corruption happening in it. Electoral bonds is not happening. CAG is telling us nothing is happening. Everything is the opposition party. 2 chief ministers in the country were put behind bars before elections. They were left afterwards, but during elections and before they were put behind bars. They are acting on behalf of the ruling party. The Lokpal, which is now in the news for buying 7 luxury BMW cars. I mean, if you look at what they have been doing, they have not produced an annual report since 21-22. They have a total of 7 sanctioned cases of prosecution since the time that they were set up. And who have they gone after? Mahua Moitra. After Hemant Soren. This is what is happening in the other institutions. They are acting as a washing machine. Indian Express reported that out of 25 opposition leaders who joined the ruling party, 23 got relief, including Mr. Ajit Pawar, who had an irrigation scam of 70,000 crores, which the Prime Minister used to go on talking about. And now that he has joined the ruling party, the case has been dropped. This is what is happening. What is the hope for our democracy is a very big question. And I completely agree with all who have spoken before me. It's democracy, if we want really a government of, by and for the people only have to make an effort. There is no shortcut. We cannot depend on any opposition party. We cannot depend on any institution today to fight that battle for us. We have to do it at every stage. We have to be able to raise our voice in every platform, whether it is the courts or it is the streets. It is really up to us, and I am not at all pessimistic. I think we have seen bad days in the past. These are also very bad days for democracy. We have emerged victorious as people, as citizens before, and we will do so again. Thank you.
Thank you for that very informative speech and the solution. We the people have to come to the streets and fight, and then only we can bring this change. மாற்றம் நம்மளால் தான் கொண்டு வர முடியும் என்பதை சொல்லி முடித்திருக்கிறார்கள். நன்றி. Next we have Dr. P. Ponraj. Dr. Ponraj did his aeronautical engineering. He was science and technology advisor to Dr. Abdul Kalam when Dr. Abdul Kalam was the President of India. So you and me may not know so much about technology. He can tell you what kind of technology is affecting the election. I request him to please.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm very happy to participate in the National Conclave on Democratic Governance and Citizens' Rights. My greetings to all the special guests, chief guests, and all the speakers and the audience. My thanks to all of you. certainly Justice Hari Parandaman sir has touched upon how judicial system is tampered systematically and how it is being handled. Improperly. Dr. Bhargava sir, how institutions are purposefully damaged and it is legitimated by the ruling government, killing the democracy by the democratic institution by itself. Political parties who are supposed to worry about that are not at all bothered. And it is the civil society who has to worry about it and take the agitation to the grassroots level. He has touched upon correctly. And Dr. Balakrishnan, IAS, former Deputy Election Commissioner of India, very happy to know that you only created a BLO and a BLA. And you enforced the system, fortified the system, but the same BLO is being used to force the votes. BLAs and BLOs are collided each other and they were using it for vote sharing. You have created with a great purpose, you have created with a great vision, but how our political parties are misusing the system which has been created for the great purpose for their own benefit. And certainly Dr. Devasayam, IAS, who has been fighting continuously and also exposing the malpractices in the system as well as on the EVM. And he has also exposed how 7% of the vote has been manipulated in favor of BJP in Tamil Nadu. And also other speakers who spoke before me. Dr. Usha Ramanathan and Mrs. Anjali Bharadwaj has blasted both on the very aspect of the malpractices and the electoral integrity has been compromised. And certainly today we stand at a fascinating crossroads where technology, once viewed with suspicion in the realm of elections, is now being reimagined as a guardian of democratic integrity. For decades, we have seen how digital tools, data systems, and communication platforms have been misused to distort public opinion, spread misinformation, or even manipulate electoral outcomes. From deep fakes to data breaches, the abuse of technology has posed serious threat to the sanctity of the vote. Today's discussion centers on a paradox that defines our digital age. The very technology designed to uphold the democracy has at times been misused to undermine it. In the context of India's electoral system, the tension is expressly pronounced very clearly here in this dais. We have seen how technology, particularly in electronic voting, can be abused to manipulate outcomes, eroding the public trust and raising serious questions about transparency. Allegations of tampering, defective VVPATs, and the OBAC symbol loading process have fueled skepticism about whether the vote truly reflects the will of the people. In this lecture, I am going to explore how technology has been both a threat and a safeguard. How it was once used to hatch manipulation and how it is being misused, which led to the questioning of the sanctity of the vote itself. Here, I would like to remember one thing. Dr. Kalam, APJ Abdul Kalam, he was vocal about EVM, electronic voting machines. He was very supportive of that. He felt India is a big democracy who uses electronic voting system, and we are able to complete the process at fast. At that time, I used to raise questions, sir, this can be manipulated. He used to say, you are a funny guy, you always doubt. You always doubt. No, sir, any electronic system can be manipulated. See, electronic system can be manipulated, I understand. Technology is a double-edged sword. It can be used for a good purpose as well as a bad purpose. But if it is used with the checks and balances, then the technology is the best choice for any system to function. I have worked with missiles, I have worked with the satellites, I have worked with atomic energy, and we have created a fighter aircraft. I was a scientist working with the fighter aircraft design and development. Can you believe that you design a system which can function as a malpractice? Then how can a satellite will get into the orbit? How can a missile will get into the target? How can the atomic weapon system will explode in a right way? How can your fighter aircraft will fly? As a scientist, you have to believe that system should work with the checks and balances, and also you should think that we have a mid-course correction. A technology is being designed to do the mid-course correction if there is any deviation, so that the mission is accomplished and the target is exactly locked onto it. He was believing in technology. And I told him, sir, you are a scientist, you are believing like that. But do you think about our politicians? No, you see, in India is a democratic country. We have a constitution. We have a judicial system. We have a parliament. We have a judicial system. We have a bureaucratic system. And apart from that, we have a media. All are functioning independently. He believes that. So I told him, sir, you are in a utopian idea. How can you believe like that? See, election commission is selected by Prime Minister, opposition leader and Chief Justice of India. He believed like that, but it has been changed. He believed that it has been selected, election commissioner has been selected. Sir, there was a single election commissioner, TN Session. You know the honesty of the TN Session. We worked together. How a bureaucrat have brought a complete reform in the election system. You should believe on the bureaucracy. You should believe on the judiciary. He used to tell me. The discussion came around when he was about to address a e-governance conference in IIT Delhi, that he wanted to propose a secured, non-tamperable, verifiable, digital voting system, not only for EVM. He wanted to propose an idea to IIT that you design such a system. Certainly, sir, I can design, I have designed such a system, and he addressed that. But I told him that if it is used by the right people, then it is a fantastic system. But if it is compromised, how can in India all these four pillars of democracy is there? How can they allow one fellow to get catch hold of all the power in his hand? Probably he did not know we have a great Modi. We have a great system who can change everything, who can rule everything. So he believed in a democracy, he believed in our constitution, he believed in our four pillars of democracy. So our Justice Hari Varanaman, our Dr. Pagala Prabhakar, our Balakrishnan, he is from the judicial system, he is from bureaucratic system, he is from economist, and also from the civil society, and the madams, everywhere, everybody have clearly explained how the system has been properly tampered. Properly tampered, and there is nobody is to answer. In Lutyens, Delhi, I was a director of technology interface with the President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. There is a saying, "Aala sollu, rula solra." Okay, you tell me the name of the person, I will tell you the rule. Okay, so it is happening here, right? ECI, somebody goes to court, immediately ECI changes the rule, and they say no, we will not give. If Rahul Gandhi addresses about the vote theory, he has not went to Rajendra place and took a printout from the computer center there. He got the entire document from the election commission. From the document, he proved that how vote theory happened in a different ways. But election commission does not feel, they want affidavit to be filed. That means, for everything, they have a way around to do the malpractice properly. So this is what happening. If you look at whether the EVMs are used in the developing countries, the developed countries, if you take a list of countries, German, paper ballot. Reason for avoiding EVM, Constitutional Court ruled EVMs lacked transparency, voters could not verify results independently. So Germany banned EVM and they followed the manual ballot paper. Netherlands, paper ballot. Concerns over hacking and lack of public trust. When there is a lack of public trust, they respect the public trust. Today, as a civil society, we have been raising voices in every forum, from the parliament to Supreme Court to streets and forums like this. There is no value for the public trust. In India, where we celebrate the democracy. And France, security concerns and preference for manual counting. Uses manual counting to ensure transparency and prevent tampering. They also rejected EVM. United Kingdom, emphasis on transparency and auditability. Emphasis, auditability and public confidence. No national use of EVMs. Norway, trialed e-voting but discontinued due to security and trust issues. Ireland, scrapped EVMs after spending millions due to reliability concerns. USA, followed the digital system for all the process except voting. Ballot paper. So, Elon Musk clearly explained EVMs can be tampered. But our Elon Musks are not because our Elon Musk have found Pushpa Vimana. Okay. So, they are higher than conscious, higher technology, savvy. Elon Musk are there in India. So, they don't believe it. Okay. Why these countries paper ballots, prefer paper ballots? Transparency. Voters and observers can physically verify the vote. First, transparency. Second, auditability. Paper trials allow recounts and forensic audit. Security. EVMs are vulnerable to hacking and hatching, tampering, or software bugs. Public trust. Manual systems are seen as more trustworthy and less opaque. Legal challenges. In Germany, the Federal Constitutional Court ruled that electronic voting violated democratic principles because the average citizen could not verify the process independently. The Federal Constitutional Court ruled India is one of the few large democracies that uses EVM nationwide, but even here concerns about tampering and transparency have led to the introduction of VVPAT. And after introducing VVPAT, they said only 5% counting is enough. After spending 80,000 crores on EVMs, VVPAT having 17 lakh VVPATs procured. They don't want to use slips. What kind of a paradox it is? If you look at this kind of a thinking, even though EC is claiming that EVMs are unhackable and standalone system, accepting all these fully or partly, myself and Professor Father George, he was the first student, PhD student of Dr. Kalam, and I am the second PhD student of Dr. Kalam. I am the last student of Dr. Kalam, PhD student of Dr. Kalam. And we both created a code, software code in C, and we have simulated the code and how, in what ways these EVMs can be manipulated and hatched. We have demonstrated in front of the press 2 years back in Chennai, and how this EVM can be hatched, not hacked, can be hatched. Once you hatch it, at an appropriate time, the hen will release the egg, correct? And an appropriate time, when you press the voting button, counting button, whatever the hatching algorithm is implemented, you will get the same result. You will get the desired result, not same result, desired result. Okay? How symbol loading system, symbol loading machine can be hacked, can be used to embed a hidden code. You have clearly explained, and how a VVPAT can be used to give a different picture in front of us and store a different result in the system. So I am a first computer science graduate, postgraduate in Tamil Nadu. When in 1986-88, first MSc Computer Science was introduced in Tamil Nadu. I am the first graduate in that batch. And Dr. George is the computer scientist. I know C code and C++ code. I have written. In my fighter aircraft design and development, I have implemented object-oriented design for computer simulation and for a cockpit simulation. I have implemented that system in the fighter aircraft design and development at the Bangalore ADA, Bangalore. Professor George, he was the professor and did a PhD in computer science, who did a brain simulation to give a chip inside the brain and how to activate the neurons for the patients who are having some kind of a syndrome. So we both worked together and we have shown how this can be tampered. So many are talking about the problems of EVM. Some are giving video demonstration. We have seen number of video demonstration how it is being tampered. Some talk about hacking and others talk about tainted glass of VVPAT. If you look at the VVPAT, the glass is very tainted, because if you put a open transparent glass, the election commission would have involved crores of rupees, would have to spend crores of rupees. So they put a tinted glass so that you cannot see. If you look at the like this, it will not be visible. What kind of a fantastic fellows they are having. And also printout. You have every laser printout available in every nook and corner, and they selected thermal printout. Done. So within 30 days, you go to a petrol bunk, they will give you a printout, right? After 2 days, how much you paid, it will not be available. It will not be visible at all. So they selected a thermal print. See what kind of a, after spending 18,000 crore, they are selecting thermal printers. They are selecting tainted glass for VVPAT display. And still others talk about positioning a VVPAT in relation to ballot unit and control unit. Some talks about you position the VVPAT in control unit should be placed here. ballot unit should be placed here, VVPAT should be placed here. If you change it, you see nothing. It is a nonsense that you keep any device anywhere, but system can work. Okay, this any hardware engineer or a software engineer can easily tell you how the system can work. But this appears to be unreasonable. On the defending side, they say standalone unit, non-hackable system, EEPROM memory, and the mark polling just before the poll in the presence of party agents, so it is tamper-proof. They say we are doing mark polling. We have clearly explained during the mark polling how the mark polling can be done, how the initial 200 votes can be polled, how after 200 votes you can change the system, how after 2 hours you can change the system, how at the symbol loading you can change the system, at the symbol loading time, how at the counting you will get the result. How many times? Okay. So if the machine is fraudulent, then why the Karnataka, West Bengal, Punjab, New Delhi, Tamil Nadu are all opposition parties are elected? That means when a thief, he will not go and steal everywhere in the house, in the compound. He will go and steal only in the selected houses, otherwise he will get caught, correct? He will get caught. So, however, all those could be absolute nonsense and void defense against solid fraud. Okay. So the technological doubts point, what is the source code and why don't they share it with others or an independent body or JPC? This is a question. The second question, even if the source code is shown, how can everyone be sure that it is in the same code that is loaded in all machines in front of an independent committee? It is not available. Why is the reluctance of 100% counting VVPAT? Why is the reluctance of 100% counting of the VVPAT? Why EC is cheating the Supreme Court? 100% VVPAT counting leads to more number of days to announce the result where it is not so. So normally, when you put a ballot paper, you have to fold twice or thrice, and then you have to put it in the ballot box. But in the VVPAT slip, it's a single slip. If you use a ballot box, they have to open the folded ballot paper and they have to keep it in a separate boxes. Then they have to count it. This is the process. This is a 3 or 4-way step. It will take time. For ballot paper counting, it will take time. But printed slip, single slip, you take the slip and put it in the box and then count it. This is much more faster than a manual ballot counting system. But they are telling the Supreme Court that if you count 100% slip, VVPAT slip, it will take days together, 3 days, 4 days, it will take to announce the result. But that also Supreme Court, innocent Supreme Court is believing that. They believe on ECI and they don't believe on common sense. So that is the problem. So how come thousands of EVMs are banked into godowns where reportedly there is no electric connection? In Uttar Pradesh, Farkabad, I think so, that Farkabad, where a godown where EVM machines were kept inside the district election office, mysteriously caught fire. According to a district official, at least 800 machines were inside. Godown got fire in 2023. If the reports are right, how come the battery power on the EVM just after polling is low, say 70%? After 1 day full polling, 70% is taken. When it is taken for counting, it is high, say 95%. Nobody can touch, nobody can tamper, nobody can charge. Only solar God has to charge it. God might have charged the battery. If the God help us to charge our mobile phones, we will be very happy. So it is not happening. But election commission, that is happening there. You have to believe. You have to believe that. So election commission has identified 6.5 lakh VVPAT machines as defective and has sent them to the manufacturers for repair. 6.5 lakh VVPAT has been found defective out of nearly around 17 lakh 40,000 VVPAT machines. 6.5 lakh machines were defective and they were sent. How come? So I have many questions but no time. So there are, if you look at, these series of incidents which have slowly eroded the public confidence in EVM and VVPATs. The Election Commission never responded to the questions made by Indian National Congress or intellects or the civil society to restore the public confidence by productively dispelling the questions which have been raised around VVPAT and EVMs. So if the physical units could not be handled properly, how can they protect the invisible code of EVM system? That is the question. So whether it is in the presence of some EC officials or not, who can technologically sound or not, how can the common man be sure that undesirable information or a pattern or a backdoor signal are also not loaded into the system? It is possible. So if you look at, the people used to say, if internet can be there, if a banking can be done by a software, if autopilot is possible in the aircraft by a software, and if the entire aircraft industry is run by a software, and the entire machine is run by a software, and so on, why not elections be computerized and EVM to be used? Okay. The problem with EVM is that if there is a mistake, it cannot be found out and verifiable immediately. Whereas in case of a banking software, if there is a mistake, you will not get up money. If there is an autopilot, there is a mistake, the plane will crash. But if there is a mistake in EVM, the nation will crash after the result. Okay, we cannot identify whether the crash is there or not. So, but in case of EVM, this verification in the railway is impossible unless the source code and the deployment of the software algorithm are transferred to the independent audit. Come technical team during the process of manufacturing and writing into the chip. Also, enabling transparent symbol loading process without any hidden code in that. Enabling to verify the source code and algorithm of the symbol loading software before it is transferred to the EVM unit by the automated independent software trial by simply verifying application of symbol loading software. The symbol loading software, you load a symbol. 2 weeks before the election, one private company fellow will come who was authorized representative of ECI and Dell. They are authorized to load the software in front of election officials like Balakrishnan sir. They will load the symbol. Not in front of us. What is it? They will load the symbol, like you take Tamarai or you take hand symbol or a two-leaf symbol or a Udayasuri symbol. You take load. Everybody knows this is symbol, but nobody knows inside the symbol. Using steganography, you embed a pattern. You embed a pattern that this symbol has to be the winner. And with the margin, percentage margin, you give 5%, that means 5%. You vote 1,000 EVM, every booth 1,000 votes, right? 1,000 or 1,500 votes. Whatever the votes polled, 1,500 votes polled, the hatched software which is already there in the EVM will go and look at all the symbols and get the votes counted, and finally it will look for a pattern. If any of the symbol has a pattern inside, and the number inside, that means that symbol will automatically get that percentage of votes higher than all the other votes. This is possible and this can be done. And if you want, I have a complete source code. I brought it here, but I cannot have the time. I have brought it here, complete source code, which I can demonstrate anywhere. Even if you take it to the Supreme Court, we are ready to come and demonstrate how it can be done. Okay. So this 5%, once you load the symbol, nobody, collector cannot understand, or election official cannot decipher. It is not visible, and image will have a embedded pattern, and that pattern will also have this 5% have to be increased out of all the votes polled. That means the particular candidate will win. That is why our poll masters are telling we will win 406. Our poll masters say we have 39% vote share and 5% vote. You create a perception, do the survey and say that this alliance will win, and based on that survey you create a perception and ask election official to do the SIR, not only in Bihar, all the states before the election, and do the vote chori and create a perception after 5 p.m. After 5 p.m., thousands of voters only will come after that because they are busy with their work till full day. And after 5 p.m., they will assemble in queues. Totally in 2021 election, 4 crore 64 lakh people have voted after 5 p.m. Silent vote. After 5 p.m., 4 crore 64 lakh people have voted. And Form 17C, after spending 18,000 crore for electoral voting system, every electoral officer can update through the mobile 5 p.m. what is the total vote count. At 6 p.m. what is the total vote count. If they immediately enter the data, it is visible on the dashboard of the election commission. But they don't declare it. After 2 days, 3 days, 4%, 6%, 7%, 8%, 12%, 13% increased voter share, they declare it in front of us. Okay. Normally, whenever there is a introduction of a technology machine, the results will be declared fast. During my childhood days, when I started voting, the day in which I vote, next day I will wait for it, third day the results will be announced. But today, after introducing electronic voting machine, okay, it takes phase 1, phase 2, phase 8. Then after announcement, okay, it takes months together to know the result. This is the greatest technology upbeat where India has seen the technology marvel. It is ridiculous that how this thing can be done. Anyway, I don't have time. I have in many ways in which I have explained in very detail how this can be tampered and how the step-by-step process in which this writing an algorithm into a chip, I have clearly explained in a step-by-step process. Anyway, which I will share my paper with our team. You can go through that. Any student who study in BE can easily tamper EVM. Okay? So there is no need of a big, this thing can be done. Let the election commission gives the EVM and the chip, we will write our own code and put it there and we will show you how this can be tampered or hashed. Okay? So dear friends, let me conclude with since the time is not there, let me conclude in the pursuit of truly transparent and accountable democracy. We must stand firm in our conviction. We say no to SIR, the opaque symbol loading process that undermines the trust. We say no to EVM symbol loading process. We say no to fraudulent election where technology is misused to manufacture outcomes rather than reflect the people's will. We say no to a biased and hand-picked election commission of India We must serve the constitution, not political convenience or expediency. We reject the use of EVMs unless they are paired with 100% VVPAT verification, laser printed slips, deposited into a separate ballot box, and fully counted alongside the EVM results. You count VVPAT slip, at the same time you count EVM, you both matches, we will accept. Otherwise, no chance. Okay? Anything less compromises the integrity of the vote. And we demand postal ballots for migrant workers whose voices are too often excluded from the democratic process or misused by the conducting multiple phases of election to suit the ruler's objective or change the outcome of the selected constituencies by migrant workers. Okay? So every citizen deserves the right to vote no matter where they work or live. But that opportunity should be given to participate when the elections are held in their original native states. The ballot box voting system should be given to the migrant workers. This is not just a technical demand, it is a moral one. Electoral integrity is the bedrock of democracy. Without it, we lose not just election, but the trust of the people. Let us reclaim the trust with the systems that are transparent, verifiable, inclusive. It is not the political party who will take the agitation to the grassroots. It is the lorry drivers who halted the entire road system and made the union government to bow down before the lorry drivers. It is the farmers who made the ruling government to bow down before the farmers and withdrawn the farmers' bill. It is the civil society. It is the people of this country. It is the youth of this nation. It is the youth of this nation, the so-called nation youths, to come to the streets democratically and halt the nation so that the Supreme Court can back up and take the Somuta case and dismiss the election commission, the present election commission, and reject the 2024 elections, all the elections conducted after that, and also conduct 100% VVPAT slip counting with the EVM. Otherwise, remove the EVM, bring the ballot system. Okay? Thank you.